So earlier you talked about Tyrion being your favorite character and maybe the most easy character for you to write. Who would you say is the most difficult character for you to write?
The most difficult viewpoint character to write is Bran, and he has always been the hardest. He is the youngest viewpoint character, which is difficult in and of itself, because when you're writing a character that young, you can't simply write what's going on. You have to filter everything through, okay, he's 8 years old. What does he understand? He's seeing this scene. Does he actually understand what's happening in this scene? Like when he comes on Jaime and Cersei, well, they don't have any clothes on and they're wrestling, because an 8-year-old has a different way of perceiving these things. So you always have that issue, and his language has to be carefully considered. What words does he know? How would an 8-year-old phrase this sentence, or a 9-year-old? 10. Obviously, he grows during the course of the story. Then later, of course, Bran has his traumatic event, and now he's unable to use his legs. So of necessity, he becomes a passive character. He cannot get along anymore. He cannot, climb a tower or run around the courtyard. So you're reliant on other characters to move him about or to allow him to move about. And that imposes a certain passivity on him that can be overcome, but it takes some thought to overcome it. And finally, he gets involved more than any other character in the magical side of the fantasy. And magic is something that has to be handled very, very carefully in fantasy, especially a low magic fantasy like mine.
A low magic fantasy?
Yes, there's compared to most fantasies, there's very little magic in Ice and Fire. It's increasing with every book, but even at the end, when it's going to be at its highest, it'll still have less than other people have when they begin on the first page. Too much fantasy can overwhelm a fantasy, and too much magic can overwhelm a fantasy and really ruin it. So all of these things make Bran very difficult to write, and his chapters I have to put together very, 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 very carefully, and they tend to take me longer to write than the chapters of any other character. Which is not to say I don't love the character, and some of the stuff he's getting in is great. I really enjoyed writing some of his chapters in Dance with Dragons, in particular, the stuff when he gets far north and encounters the Green Seer and so forth in the cave.